This is the Whimsy Farm Podcast.
There's a big wide world right out your door. Good people doing good things. Whoa, it's a big, big wide world. Now is the time. Now is our time.
Welcome, everyone. This month on the Whimsy Farm Podcast, we celebrate Pride. On episode 5 today, we keep a hyperlocal focus on the town of Milan, Michigan, where I now call home. Milan is located in both Washtenaw and Monroe counties. We'll hear from Eichner-Pendell and then Laura Russeau, Milan Pride activists who produced events in town for the past few years. Then we'll talk with Brie Nikora, the Pridezone Coordinator for Ozone House in Ypsilanti, about 15 minutes away from here in Washtenaw County. Ozone House has been helping queer youth find safe housing for decades now, and their work is incredible. And finally, today we'll have our very first installment of Poetry Sustains with my friend and colleague Maryam Barrie, a poet and reader for the Midwest Review. We'll share a few poems written by LGBTQ plus poets hailing from or working in greater Southeast Michigan. Okay, let's dive right in and welcome Ash Eichner-Pendell to the Whimsy Farm Podcast. So welcome, Ash Eichner-Pendell. In our town, you're affectionately known as Ash EP, and we're glad to have you on the Whimsy Farm Podcast today to talk about the hard work you're doing for this year's Pride in Milan. So it starts out on day one, June 1st, with the flag. Tell us about the flag.
Yes, we have a flag raising that will be June 1st this year at 11 a.m. Right there in front of City Hall, where we will raise the Pride flag for the month of June to celebrate. We have a speaker who is coming. She is she does so much in the community, to name a few things, but her name is Maryam Barrie. She sits on the Milan Area Schools School Board. She is also in education, and she just does a lot of wonderful things. So she'll be there to say a few words about Pride, and she'll raise the flag with her beautiful family.
Oh, and this is at City Hall. So our city government in Milan is supportive of Pride.
I can't answer that for you, but because just like anyone can raise a flag. So this has nothing to do with the city of Milan. This was ARC coming up and asking if we could raise the flag.
Oh, I thought it was on the city flagpole.
It is on the city flagpole, but the city is not doing anything for us. They're not there, they're not helping. We had to put in a request just like anybody else. So I can't speak to the city being supportive or not.
Well, that's wonderful that you're doing it regardless of whether they're supporting you.
Yeah.
And then that flag will be up all month.
That's correct. Yeah. This will be, I think this is our third year of having the flag raising. So pretty exciting.
So, and just down the road from the flag is the Senior Center in Milan, a very active, vibrant place run by the wonderful Marianne Opel. And you are doing something new this year there, right? You're doing a two-part educational series with the seniors. Can you tell us a little about that?
It actually isn't new. We did it last year too. So myself and Beth Vandergriff are going to be going to the Milan Senior Center, and we're going to be putting on presentations again this year about it starts off June 11th, and there's a two-part. So the first part is June 11th. I will be speaking to that. We're going to go over the history of Pride, a brief summary of the history of Pride, the Pride flag and what it stands for, and then going over a timeline of the LGBTQ plus history. And doing that helps to put things in perspective for people who might not know. Why do we have to have Pride? Why do we have to have this kind of stuff? So showing them the timeline really helps people to see why, why we do. And then the second part is going to be Beth Vandergriff is going to do that presentation, and she's going to be talking about gender expression, the history of gender expression, and drag.
How was your event received last year at the Senior Center?
We did a three-part last year. So the first part, we were met with four people who came to the senior center not to learn anything, but to um, state their beliefs about what they think about pride and the pride flag. So that was a little. It's hard to talk to somebody who doesn't want to learn anything. So that was challenging. And again, it was uh, myself and Beth Vandergriff who were doing the presentations. We did have our other board member there for support, Matt West, Pastor Matt West. So he helped with that too. But I don't want to just dwell on that because it actually turned out to be a really, really great series. Kind of glad those people, there was only four people who were acting like that. But it kind of showed everybody how ridiculous it is and narrow thinking, um, and kind of hard to find reasons why you would be mad about people living their lives. So, but the second part was excellent too. So we went through three different parts, really diving in deep. We did Pride history, the Stonewall riots. We talked about the origins of the Pride flag and what all the colors of the flag represents. And then our third, we really just wanted to have an open discussion. So people had a place to ask questions or maybe something that they wanted to know that they've never had the opportunity to learn about. And it was such a great conversation. It was such a great coming together moment. And it is also really important to remember that people who are members of Milan Seniors for Healthy Living are also members of the LGBTQ plus community. And so I think it's so important as an ARC board member, I made myself the liaison between Milan Seniors for Healthy Living and ARC because we can't not forget a whole population. We can't be ageist. Trans, gay, lesbian people, everybody's been around forever. So it's not new. So that was great. So we're going to do this time, we're only doing a two-part series, and that'll be the 11th and the 18th at Milan Seniors for Healthy Living.
And then rounding out the month, at the end of the month, you have an event at the high school.
Yes.
It's adjacent to the high school. I forget the name of the building.
Well, it is a part of the high school, but it is its own wing. So it is the Milan Center for Innovative Studies, MCIS building. And yes, we decided to move our Pride celebration, which is going to be Saturday, June 28th from 12 to 3. Last year and the year before, so this is Milan's fourth Pride celebration. The first one was put on the GSA, which was from Milan High School. And then ARC joined in on helping the second and third year. And this is the fourth year of it. And really, this is our first year of doing it by ourselves, which is really cool. So yes, it's going to be Saturday, June 28th from 12 to 3. We have a drag story time lined up starting at 12:30 with the one and only Mia Cole, our drag performers coming to do a story time. And then there will be a drag performance at 2 p.m. In between, we are going to have lots of food. We have such generous, I'm kind of speechless on that. We have such generous people here in Milan who want to be so supportive and warm and kind. So, Little Caesars Pizza is being incredibly generous in helping to supply pizza for everybody for our celebration. Rich Greens Bakery is going to be providing their delicious cookies for us, which is just amazing. We're going to have the Kona Ice Truck there. They'll be selling their icy deliciousness in the parking lot from 12 to 3, which is perfect because we're going to have nice lawn games out there. But having the Pride celebration indoor this year, last year was very, very hot. It was very, very hot and humid. And so we wanted to make sure that everybody could kind of stay cool. And yeah, so we're going to try indoors this year and see how it goes.
Tell me a little bit about why this organization, ARC, and these events are so important to you as an activist.
Oh, well, I joined ARC when it was just starting. I actually was a part of a group of 4 women who were starting our own. We were called the DEI Renegades, and we were starting our own little organization, and then ARC came about, so, I joined in on that, and it just I want the reason why I think it is so important, the reason why I've stuck with it, I'm now a board member. um I am one of the main Beth Vandergriff and I are organizing the Pride celebration this year, just the two of us. And we just think it is so important to have representation in Milan. I personally think it is so important to have representation in Milan for our youth. There is a lot of negative and just horrible and ignorant things being said about the LGBTQ plus community. And I don't want that to become normal. That is not normal. That's not normal at all. So we need to make sure that we are representing everyone in our community and everybody has a safe place to celebrate. And so letting youth know that um, they're not normal. They are normal. They are what you're supposed to be. Um, One of the biggest achievements in life. I'm old now, so I know this, and I say that to my the younger people who we're doing this for. The goal in life is to be your authentic self, and it is not an easy road. And you will lose friends, you will feel like you're losing yourself, but really you are finding yourself. And that's the goal, is to be your authentic self. And people who stand up and change their whole lives to be who they are finally, that's the goal. You are doing it. And I just want to make sure that everyone is celebrated for who they are and who they love. We shouldn't be quiet about it. We should be loud about it. So just like everybody else is loud about their love. So I just think it's really important that I mean, we focus in on our youth here because we want to have a safe place for people to grow up and be who they are. But there are some adults still who are still not comfortable with who they are. And I hope that they can come out and be comfortable with who they are to 100% and learn something, find more out about yourself, and just ultimately be more of your authentic self and love yourself for who you are.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I agree that that is the prime directive for me is to try and have the courage to be my authentic self. And it's some days are harder than others, but knowing there's a community of support to hold us up and to make us feel safe and welcome is everything.
I think so too. And as we go through life, we go through different chapters and we change and we grow and we leave things behind and we might find out new things about ourselves. And so I want, as people are going through that journey, to know, I feel like it's part of my path is to be somebody who says, like, no, you are doing it. You're doing it right because you're honoring your true self. And I think, I hope, because we are moving in as a collective, there's few stragglers, and those are the loudest, unfortunately. So I want youth to know that just because people are loud about things doesn't mean they're right. Um, there's just so much more that could be said about that. But um, so ARC stands for advocacy, representation, and connection. And that's really what we're striving to do. We want to advocate, we want to make sure people are represented, and we want people to connect. We really do. We want community where everyone feels safe to be themselves.
Beautifully said. Anything else you'd like to add, Ash?
We're going to have so much fun for our celebration this year. I'm just really looking forward to it. So, like I said, I'm going to shout out for our drag performer again. Mia Cole will be there to do a story time, and then a drag performance. We're going to have lots of food and snacks. We're going to have a selfie station, which is going to be really fun. We've got DJ Bill coming to play wonderful music so everybody can dance and have fun. We're going to have, it won't quite be completely quiet. We want to be conscious of people with sensory needs. So we'll have an art section upstairs, an arts and crafts area that will be a little bit more quiet and calmer. So if you need a break, you can go up and chill for a bit. Um, yeah, like I said, the Kona Ice Truck's going to be there. It's just going to be a really, really good time. And we're
I can tell
so
you put a lot
grateful. Mm,
I can tell you put a lot of thought into
yeah.
having something for everyone.
Yeah, we really want to have like a nice party where everybody can come and feel good and be happy. And again, we're just it blows my socks off to see people stepping up right away. I mean, we put up our sponsorship stuff and we had someone sponsor like right away, which is incredible. So, and wanting certain sponsorship spots too, which was also incredible. Um, and then our volunteers, we have people signing like all everybody, different parts of the community coming together, school board members, teachers, small business owners, artists, musicians, people coming together to volunteer to help make this event happen because we couldn't do it without our volunteers for sure. We're going to have vendors. I forgot to say that. That's going to be very exciting. We've got some really cool vendors who are coming to share their goods with us, and all be for sale. And we'll also have some nonprofits there that will be helpful with information and things like that too.
And that's from 12 to 3 on.
Saturday, June 28th. And that's going to be out at the MCIS wing of the Milan Area High School, which is located at 200 Big Red Drive. Plenty of parking and air conditioning. Yay. If you were at our Pride celebration last year, you will be grateful. And indoor potties too, which is also very helpful and accessible. Um, yeah, I think it's just going to be a great time. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you and Beth and everyone for making this happen in Milan.
Yeah, I have to shout out my fellow board members. Elizabeth Slatterly is also helping, and Pastor Matt West is part of our board. Myself and Beth Vandergriff. So we are small, but we are mighty, and we are going to try to give the best Pride Month that we can.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Ash. I hope it's a smash.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. This was awesome.
Uh, Welcome to the Whimsy Farm podcast, Laura Russeau, the producer of the annual Pride Parade in Milan. How are you, Laura?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So every year there is a big deal in Milan for the Pride Parade, and you are the person behind it. Can you tell us what it all entails and how it got started? Tell us the story.
Well, it started around that Supreme Court draft release back in, I guess that was 2022, in where I felt compelled to be on the streets and also to see, to kind of create a template, really, to see, if I have some kind of event and I go out there locally and sit at the library steps, like who will show up? Does local government care? And so I in May I had gone out for Mother's Day. It was something that, it's not that I wanted to be out on the streets and start going down this road, but I felt like I needed to. And actually I had at least 3 city council members came out of the dozen people that showed up. And we just took a walk around the park. We kind of talked and met, and it was a very intimate thing. But, I really wanted to keep doing things, and being, having lived in San Francisco for quite a while, I really recognized that particular issue I felt was an everybody issue, not a women's issue. I think when the government is starting to take rights away, it really is an everybody type issue. And I decided that the next form of action that I would take is to create a Milan Pride Parade for the next month. So that's really how it started.
So tell us what it's like, and we know what a parade looks like. Are there speakers? How many people participate in the parade? Do you have any haters show up? What's it like there?
Well, the first year was a little tenuous, but it was well attended. We had some like County Commissioner Shannon Beeman showed up, and I didn't know her. Washtenaw County Prosecutor Ellie Savage showed up. I really didn't know quite a few people. Let's see. There were a lot, there was a good number of people that showed up the first year, probably around 75. And I didn't go for a road closure because I didn't really want to put it out there where I needed approval. Walking through town and a pedestrian type demonstration or parade didn't require any kind of approval or money and those types of things. So that's kind of how it started. But the next year I kind of went down the road to see, well, maybe like the road of progress, and thought, yeah, that would be really cool if we could have a road closure. So I looked into that, and I kind of planned it out where, and it's pretty much every year, like I want to have a couple speakers. The first year, because it was even more casual, there was an interest in having kind of an open forum where people could speak. And actually the first year we had quite a few young people, like really young people, probably middle schoolers almost, they were, I didn't even know some of them, but they got up one by one and just gave their comments on how they felt supported, and how was their first parade. And it was wonderfully powerful. I definitely shed a few tears. But that always kind of kept me coming back for more. So it's been a little simpler, like the last 2 years, where I had invited Ellie Savitt and State Rep Reggie Miller came out, and we did have our first road closure, and I had them do some speaking along the way and at the flagpole. I think I kind of concluded it at the flagpole where we've gotten a photo. And so it's not that I like the rally part of it, is more of an informational type thing where, we assemble. I try to get a couple people to speak to the legislative landscape at any given time there. Last year, State Senator Jeff Irwin and former State Rep Felicia Brabeck came, and so they spoke. It was the first year ARC officially participated, ARC Milan. So I think she was, at the time, she may have been the interim, or she was the official president. Ashley St. Clair said a few words, and I wanted to make sure that they were involved and they could speak to whoever showed up, that they were a local resource. And so I tried to give plenty of time to them. And then we just, we do that. And then we had a couple vehicles and a fire truck, and the police kind of lets us out, and we go down the road to the flagpole. So it's not a long parade, but it's been very powerful in different ways every year.
What kind of floats or people are marching or participating actively in the parade? What groups?
Yeah. And certainly because, it's a newer idea, even for this is the fourth year. So we've never had a lot of spectators like lining the road like you might see at another, like, typical parades, other parades in town. So it's been more of a pedestrian, like anybody that shows up is part of the parade. And I've got some great shots, so my husband and I, Josh, we have a trailer, and I have typically kind of made that the centerpiece. The first year, that was the only vehicle in the parade, and but you have to start somewhere. So we had a truck with a trailer and balloons and a place that if somebody had mobility issues, they could ride on the parade or the trailer. And so we tried to deck that out. And then we have the pedestrians who show up to be part of the parade. And I think last year we had a family who I think they made your Pride Parade shirt, perhaps, the shirt you're wearing. And they had a truck. I think Grandma was driving the truck, and they kind of decorated that. And we also had the fire truck for the first year last year. And they kind of, so for safety reasons, we kind of led it with the trailer, had all the pedestrians, and then at the end we had a couple of vehicles. So that's been the mainstay of what we're doing. And I think it'll be similar to that this year.
So it sounds like the town has a very positive feeling about the parade. You don't have counter protesters or
we
issues like
never
that?
have. We did have, like, the first year we weren't sure. There was somebody that was like videotaping, or I don't know, there wasn't like any counter protest. But I think it was so positive there. I don't know, there was just something in the air that didn't seem exactly, I don't know, because it was so new too. Maybe it was a little paranoia and running throughout, but yeah, every year it's been very positive. And I think the fact that, I keep sticking with it, and it's, there have been people who help. Obviously, if I didn't have somebody to, like, moving Milan forward is, while they haven't officially participated, we've used their trailer in the past. I think that we won't have that this year, but because of the city fees and everything this year, I've always kind of been able to do it for free. We did take up a donation for the police department because I realized that when you have a parade, they didn't have those parade fees like they did before. But I wanted to acknowledge that, if there was organizations that wanted to come out and volunteer and be part of that, then, I welcome that. But they're there for our safety, and it was part of the approval through the city to have that road closure. So we took up a donation, and I passed that along to Chief Tillery last year in gratitude for keeping us safe. Because when you do go out on the streets and you're celebrating or demonstrating, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. So it's important to have them there and to keep us safe.
Well, it sounds like this is a parade, but it's also a march, like a civil rights kind of march.
In some ways, I mean, we certainly rely on the laws that protect the LGBTQ community, and all of us really. But and that's why it's always nice when Ellie Savitt comes and he speaks directly to the types of laws that are in place to protect people, and like hate speech. And I think it's really important that the community hears that directly from our representatives and our advocates. And I think it's important for them to see us as a community, and the support that's there, and why it's important to keep advocating for us, and that that they know that we're behind them too. we're supporting that. We want our community of all ages to be safe. But it always goes down to the kids, and the suicide rates, I think. And at the heart of it for me is to make sure people know that there are safe people to talk to. And that was a big thing that I tried to put out there, that there are teachers, and there's a There's people that work in the fire department or the police department, or there's city council members, or, a handyman, whatever, but there are people that are safe in our community. And if you didn't have anyone to talk to, that, to reach out, we don't want anyone to feel like they're alone, depressed, there's people out here that care.
That's wonderful. And I know you're very civically involved. And recently you announced that you are running for the mayor of Milan. Tell us a little bit about your campaign.
Well, I'm piecing it together for sure. It was kind of a last minute decision. I was trying to kind of talk myself out of getting involved, but it was, again, when you feel like you're looking at the landscape of what's going on in the world, and I can only scroll so much, and I start to think about what is possible here, what the implications are on that federal level, and how that will trickle down to our local community. It's important for me to be on the street still, and to be a part of some demonstrations, and let other people know that I, for one, am not for like cutting Medicaid or dismantling the Department of Education, and cutting services to veterans, for veterans, and there's so many things, but it's really important for me to be out there. And I guess I'd like to see, or I'd like to be the type of mayor that is out there with the community and the people that really care about that stuff. And if I can be proactive as mayor to try to collaborate with local organizations, I'd like us to be a little more forward thinking about the types of collectivizing, I don't know, things that we can do to, maybe minimize the damage that may come our way eventually. I'm a little worried about, just basic need kind of things, food insecurity, health insurance. It's just, there's so much stuff going on, and I guess I want to be that person that kind of connects the dots if I can. And I really rely on other people that are, have a little more expertise in all these areas, but I'm pretty good at orchestrating things and connecting dots to hopefully bring good ideas to the table. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at, and why I chose to throw my hat in the ring.
Well, we'll be keeping an eye on your campaign. We wish you the best. Thank you, Laura Russeau, for joining us today on the Whimsy Farm podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
Welcome, Brie Nikora from Ozone House, to the Whimsy Farm podcast today. We're going to talk a little bit about Ozone House as a whole, and then more specifically, your role as the Pridezone and Outreach Coordinator. So tell us, what is Ozone House?
Yeah, so Ozone House is a really incredible nonprofit organization that was started back in 1969 during, I always forget the verbiage for this, but during a lot of movements, right? It was started by some radical queer folks who noticed that a lot of other queer young people, and I use queer to encompass all folks under the Two-Spirit LGBTQIA+ acronym. That's just like my change out because it's a little bit faster and a little bit easier to say. So it was started by folks who noticed that queer young people were getting kicked out of their homes, and they just saw a need in their community. And so they banded together and created Ozone House. And it's evolved since then. Initially it was in Ann Arbor, and we recently within the last, I would say like 20 or 30 years, began sort of spreading more towards Ypsi. So most of our buildings are located in Ypsi, but we serve all of Washtenaw County. And I would say I like to conceptualize our services in two different sectors, all with the same intention of ending youth homelessness. And so those two sectors are prevention and then response. And so in our response, we have like our residential programs, we have non-residential programs. And then in our preventative side, it's a lot of community education, a lot of early intervention, and those kinds of things. And yeah, and they kind of like overlap in different areas, more of like a Venn diagram than two separate things. So that's sort of
Tell us what, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, I was just going to say that's sort of the general overview for Ozone House. Yeah.
So what does if a youth is homeless, how do you help them?
Yeah, great question. So there are a few different things that we do. The first thing that we do is a welcome interview with them, and that's to sort of get more of the details about their homelessness, which includes like what age they are, because we are separated by minors, so those who are under 18, well, actually under 17 and a half, and those who are over 18. And that's, pretty much for obvious legal reasons, right? Keeping adults and minors separate. So we find out some information about their needs and what's going on. And then from there, we plug them into what specific support they might be in need of. So for some, I think the example that you gave me was someone who's literally homeless. So in the moment, it would look like sort of emergency safety planning. So we'd look at all resources that they already have, whether that maybe be family or friends that they could stay with for the night. Because our residential program, I think, and I kind of always butcher this, so sorry, but I think we have a total of 10 to 12 beds in our adult residential program, and then I think about 8 in our minor program. So those fill up pretty quickly. And our adult residential program is a long-term program. It's a transitional living program. So young people are able to stay there for up to 18 months. And that's to really provide them with the resources that they need to leave our program and find like long-term success and stability. Another thing that we're working on right now, we just built out another part in our 1600 building, which is located on North Huron River Drive. In Ypsilanti, and we just finished building out our emergency crisis homeless center. So that would be, instead of like our transitional living program, that's for young people who are literally homeless tonight. They would be able to have somewhere to come stay. So that increases the amount of young people that we're able to serve. And I'm sure later on we'll get into some questions about like funding, because that's sort of the point that we're at right now, is looking at finding the resources to be able to fund the program, which means pay for the staff, make sure there's food, all of those other pieces. So that's sort of what that looks like. Did that feel like an answer to your question?
Yes. So, so that would be the choices that a person would have. First, you try to find a solution within their own system. And then if not, you have hopefully a bed available or the emergency crisis center. Is that accurate?
Yeah, correct. And if that young person doesn't go into our residential program, they're placed with, we have a waitlist case manager. And so that waitlist case manager, so let's say, for example, this young person comes and they're like, my parents kicked me out. And let's say they're 18. And the safety plan that we come up with is like, okay, do you have an aunt, for example, that you could stay with for a few nights? And so we talk to the aunt, we plan with the aunt, we get them to a safe place for a few nights. While they're there, they'll be working with our crisis line case manager, and that case manager helps them with, let's say they don't have an ID, or they don't have a social, or they don't have their birth certificate, which impacts being able to get a job, which impacts being able to save and get an apartment, and sort of all of those triage services that are necessary for establishing stability. And so they're placed with someone who they can work with in a non-residential way to help move them up the ladder towards individualized stability and success, quote unquote.
Let's talk a little about the outreach programs.
Yeah. Okay. It's multi-tiered. So some of our, and feel free to like ask any questions as I just start blabbing. So our outreach looks like a lot of different stuff. And fortunately, most of the people who work at Ozone House are social workers. So in their own like hearts, they're kind of always doing outreach. Like we have a specific case manager who's really, really passionate about housing. And so some of his outreach, even though he's not an outreach manager, like that's not his position, he liaises a lot with landlords and with the city and with like different housing specific resources to make plans with landlords so that we can get our young people into more housing spaces, because housing is really limited and really expensive in Ypsilanti and, you know, Washtenaw County. So there's that piece, right? There's sort of like the individualized acts that a lot of our staff members will take on their own. Other than that, we do a lot of outreach in our local schools, so high schools and middle schools. And that can just look like popping into their school and passing out flyers for programs that we have available. We also do presentations more often in health classes, in Ypsilanti district schools and Ann Arbor district schools, and some that are a little bit farther out too. And again, that's just to inform young people of what youth homelessness looks like, because a lot of times people have the misconception that youth homelessness looks like adult homelessness and that it's someone, just walking out on the streets. But more often than not, it's couch surfing, family homelessness, not having a stable place to stay. And so to inform young people of like, hey, if you have a friend who's maybe been kicked out of their home and is couch surfing, give them this resource so that they can get more support. So it looks a lot like that. It also looks like doing community events. We have a 3v3 basketball event that we usually run throughout the winter and the summer. And that's, again, to like inform people of our services, but also provide young people a space to go to engage in an activity that is beneficial. And we also have a bunch of other community organizations who table during this event. And so it provides more sort of networking and connection. Our outreach can also look like, especially during the winter, Ypsilanti has a warming center. And so that's like a daytime warming center where folks who are literally homeless during the winter have somewhere warm to stay during the day, because the homeless shelters close during the day. And so we'll go over there and we'll talk with folks and be like, hey, if you have someone in our age range, get them connected to our services. It looks like communicating with local organizations for employment support. That can also be our outreach. Building connections with community partners like, you and Whimsy Farms, or we have a partnership with the Ypsi District Library, and we run a couple of different groups for a drop-in center like book club and noise permit. Sometimes we've done connections with banks so that they can come in and teach our young people financial literacy and teach them how to open up a bank account and open up a savings account. Yeah, so our outreach is pretty much anything that you can imagine that could build.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's all to sort of like build the network of all organizations in our area, so that we can all band together as like a larger community because a lot of times with this work, right, it becomes really insular, and it's like this organization is doing this and this one's doing this. And so a lot of our intention is to break down those barriers and remove the silos so that we're all working together to all support all of the people in our community.
So let's talk about funding. How do you do this amazing work?
Yeah. Such a great question. So Ozone House is funded in a few different ways. We are funded privately, so we have some private donors who support our mission, vision, and values. We get a lot of state dollars and a lot. Erase that, I don't know about a lot, but we get some state dollars, and then we also get some federal funding. And sometimes our state dollars trickle down through federal funding. So those are sort of the main spaces that we're funded through, and that's presented to this these last few months. Because of the current political climate, there's been a lot of fear and a lot of scarcity and a lot of reimagining. Because again, when we look at Ozone House's history, it was this grassroots organization that didn't depend on federal funding. And right now, a third of our entire funding is federal. And to those who are aware and connected, Ozone House for a long time, historically, I'm trying to be careful with my words because I don't want anything to like create a negative impact on the organization. But for a long time, the language that's been banned has been the language that we hold dear to our heart, right? And so is our mission. And our vision and our values, like equity is one of our values, and DEI is one of our values, and I mean, we support Black and Brown young people, and we support queer young people. And so we've been having a lot of discussions lately about what it looks like to pivot away from federal funding. And that's a huge thing, right? To like look at, okay, if we're gonna choose to, put our middle fingers up to the federal government and be like, we don't need your money. How do we replace that third of our entire pot of funds? And so we just had usually we have an annual fundraising event, and we just had that, and we were able to get a lot of private support, but not enough to cover that third. So we're like continuing to figure out ways that we can lean on the community a bit more, our community a bit more, to get some more private support so that we can keep doing the things that we are meant to be here doing.
Do you have need for volunteers?
Always.
What would someone do to volunteer for Ozone House?
Yeah, if they go to our website, I want to say it's under the link. I do want to say it's under the link for careers, which is at the bottom of the page. We do internships, and we also do volunteers. Love volunteer support. And the volunteers could do anything from like cleanup around our buildings to getting trained to do our crisis line, which is another aspect of Ozone House. And that's like crisis line support, and then also planning if a young person or someone needs further or additional support from Ozone House, or supporting at our drop-in center, or supporting during Pridezone. Yeah, we love volunteers.
And your website is ozonehouse.org, OZONE house.org. And anything else you want to share with us before we let you go on to your busy day?
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think I'm really grateful for this interview, and grateful that more of the word will be out about Ozone House. And I think if there's anything that folks take away from this, it's to reach out into your community and see what resources are there and what resources need your support. whether that be, whether it's you're being capable of supporting financially or supporting with your efforts, or just sharing things on social media. Follow our Instagram if you want to know what we're up to. And I think that's just underscore Ozone House. We also have a Facebook, but my main point is to get connected to your community, to your neighbors, to the people around you, because I think right now more than ever, that's what we all need, is to remember that we're not alone, and that the people around you care about you. So yeah.
Brie Nikora, thank you so much for taking time with us today, and we'll be checking back in with Ozone House in the future.
Thanks so much, Carolyn. I appreciate it.
Again, welcome, Maryam.
Hi, Carolyn.
Great to have you here. We've been planning this for a while.
Yeah.
And you have done a different version of Poetry Sustains through your work as a professor at Washtenaw Community College.
Mm-hmm.
And I've sat in on quite a few Zoom poetry sessions with you. So you have retired now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the second incarnation of Poetry Sustains will be periodically here on the Whimsy Farm podcast.
That's great. I'm happy to be here.
You're an expert at picking out poems, and you've picked out a few for us. Let's start by sharing our screens. You sent me 7 poems, and I picked a few of them to talk about, and I wanted to open with this one. Will you read this one for us and then tell us a little bit about Raymond Luxack?
Raymond Lutzak is a poet that I just discovered in terms of coming up with poems for this event. He lives in Ironwood, Michigan, and as a child, he slowly became deaf. So I don't know if you know how much is happening with deaf poetry these days, since Ilya Kaminsky's Deaf Republic, because he has a lot of experience in his family with deafness. It's just been exciting to see what people are doing that's different in poetry because of the way sound isn't a part in the very same way of their work.
Fascinating.
And this was a joy to find. I Am a Shoe by Raymond Lutzak. How do you say his name?
I'm not sure. We can go with Lusick.
Let's say with Lutzak. It's for JB. I am a shoe in need of a right-sized foot. I ache to have him slip inside me, wriggle his toes comfortably as I walk with him everywhere. No one would know how much I love him. I know each crack of the cement ahead of me. Each story of my past would surely break my mother's back if she knew what I've done. The feet in my life would trample her heart. I am a shoe softened by fuzzy socks that keep me warm and dry on days that chill and nights that pour. Every time a toe nudges me, I reawaken.
What is so warm and so heartbreaking at the same time, and so tactile.
Yeah. It is very tactile, and it's about the feelings of the foot inside these different shoes.
And the feelings of intimacy in a relationship.
Yeah, with that middle paragraph, middle stanza about his mother's inability to see or accept what his life is.
And how that hurts him.
Right, and how he believes it would hurt her if she knew what I've done. That line is particularly haunting, I think.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, Raymond Lutzak.
Yeah, I'd love to find more of his work.
So the next one is the bingo one. The format of this just fascinates me.
Oh, the Fatima Asghar Yeah. Let me make this.
Microaggression bingo. Mariam, sometimes people who aren't experts in poetry have conceptions of what a poem should look like.
Sure, sure.
And
You might
this, I
expect it
think,
to rhyme or
or be in stanzas
yes,
or
yes,
be
yes.
in a meter. So when first our eyes feast on this poem, we might wonder how to go about reading it. What would you suggest?
Well, I, I mean, you can never be totally random, but I'd suggest starting down here with this square. Um, I noticed the center square is don't leave your house for a day, safe.
And
Um,
that's in bold. So
and that's in
our
bold.
eyes are drawn to the center.
Yeah, yeah. And because of the way she looks, and I've experienced this to some small extent, um, when people have assumptions about your heritage, their behavior can become odd. And sadly, we're seeing a lot of that in our country right now. So, are
And
you
who wrote this poem?
Fatima Asghar? She
Tima
was a
Ashgar.
student at the university for several years. I don't think she's got an Ann Arbor connection right now, but she did go to school here. And she was born in Bangladesh, and her parents emigrate. No, she's Kashmiri, and her parents emigrated when she was very small, and then they both died. So her life story includes being an orphan, being in exile, being an immigrant, and being gay. So
And as you mentioned when we spoke earlier, the all these poems that you've selected for us display what we call now intersectionality, which Catherine von Stockton and I talked about in the last episode
no,
of the
I can't wait to
podcast
hear it.
as such an important ingredient in LGBTQ culture is understanding how the role that intersectionality plays. I
And
wonder if we should just go back and forth on some random squares and take turns reading them. How does that sound?
absolutely, I'd be comfortable to do that. Let me get
Okay,
back.
you start.
And just to piggyback on what you just said, I don't think it's important just for people who are on LGBTQ spectrum. I think it's
That's true.
true for all of us, even though it doesn't seem like that matters to our government at the moment. It still is a really important way to recognize one another as unique, distinct human beings. So.
Yes.
I'll read this one down here, Carolyn, and then you pick a square. In the fifth week of class on Bollywood, a student still refers to South Asia as the Middle East. I don't know. Have you watched Bollywood movies?
No, I have not.
There's an enormous film industry in India that is musicals, bright colors, saris drifting over the stairs. They're boisterous, really dramatic stories that are imported to people all over the world. I mean, if you go into some Indian groceries, you can still find a little DVD section of Bollywood movies. The Ann Arbor Library is carrying more and more Bollywood movies. They're worth it just for the colors. Um, they're fun.
I've seen excerpts from them, so I know what you mean about the vivid visuals.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I'll pick one.
great.
White girl wearing a bindi at music festival.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Do you know Bindi?
Yes, yes. Vandana Shiva. who I've had the pleasure of meeting, once asked me to help her put her bindi on at a conference. It was quite an honor.
Yeah,
So this is I would say this is a cultural appropriation microaggression.
right, right. And I think in my square, I forgot to talk about the ignorance that was a microaggression of referring to South Asia as the Middle East, as if the Middle East includes like everything all the way to the Pacific or something.
Yes, as if it's not here, so it doesn't really matter that I don't know where it is.
Oh, sadly, I, I think you've hit it right on the spot. Um, I'm working on a,
Okay,
I'll pick one, this one.
okay.
I'm working on a story about Muslims, but I'm not Muslim. Could you read it and tell me what you think? I'll take you out for coffee. Oh God. Uh that let me figure out how to articulate what's aggressive about that. It's disrespectful, one, to think that a Muslim reader is their job is to be a Muslim expert for you in your writing that you've started, apparently with no connection to the material. So that's weird. And the idea that things that you would pay a professional thousands of dollars to do would be cool to exchange for a coffee is definitely aggressive, a microaggression, and disrespectful, I think.
Yeah, that's even kind of a microaggression.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Here's let's do one more and then we have to move on. But
Sure.
people can find this I'm sure somewhere, or go on the YouTube. If you're just listening, go on our YouTube channel and then you'll see the poems. Okay, here's another one that leaped out. Editor
Okay.
recommends you add more white people to your story to be more relatable.
Oh God, that's terrible. Like we have the stories to tell that we have.
Yeah,
Uh,
I could imagine as a writer opening a file from my editor, which frankly always terrifies me a little,
sure.
and finding something like that. Um,
Well,
what would
it
you
also
do?
suggests that if there is a gap in knowledge, that the best course of action is to dumb everything down to the lowest common denominator, um, which creates a lot of problems.
Well, and it's making it as the writer is not white, so adding more white is making the writer's work less authentic
Yeah, it's like
in
bleaching it.
order to be more relatable.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, boy, there's
I'm
so
sad
much
we
here
can't
we
go
could
through
spend.
each square. She does a great job with these different formats.
Yeah, fascinating format. Okay, we have to cut back to the last one in the interest of time. Duplex for the sick and tired.
Oh, great.
Kay Allende Barrett, born in Mackinac City,
Oh, that's in the
Michigan,
middle of it.
Philippine
Yeah,
X.
great.
Read that for us?
Sure. After Jericho Brown, a poem can spasm, stretch, but it can let salve in. There aren't enough pages for the longing. There aren't enough pages for the longing, drenched in medicine bottles and ice packs. Drenched in medicine bottles and ice packs, our aches sing beyond joints and stethoscopes in denial. Those who sing beyond joints and stethoscopes in denial, how do the symptoms stack your days? Let's name the stacks of dangerous symptoms. News coverage, the state, strangers who say the pandemic is over, news coverage, the state, strangers who say the pandemic is over, as I dream about a world that celebrates all of us. As I dream about a world that celebrates all of us fully. Let's allow poems to stretch. Let the salve in.
I thought this was such a great poem to end the podcast's Pride Month because it is that world we dream of, that things like Pride Month, which is part of it, DEI, uh, allows that salve in for more and more people. And at this time when our government doesn't seem to want to support that, we as people need to stand up and do it ourselves.
Yes, we absolutely do. We absolutely do. I'd just say, if it's okay, a quick word about form.
Yes,
Ghazal,
please.
Ghazal, is a form that is in Middle Eastern and South Asian poetry, and it involves this clever use of the end of one stanza's line as the beginning of the next stanza's line. And it allows for this really nice repetition of ideas and images while still making connections and building on top of the structure in each stanza when they're usually really short. The stanzas are just two verses. Um, and
Yes, it's
it's a
very
form that
powerful.
it is. It is.
What were you going to say about the form?
Just that it allows for a different kind of understanding. It's something that came out of oral poetry, right? So people would be more likely to be able to recite or remember other people's ghazals because they had these features built into them. That's all.
That it really it allows the listener or reader to, I'm looking at the word drenched right now, to drench
Oh,
themselves in the images because
yeah.
the images are repeated.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wonderful.
And I think while she's saying, let's allow poems to stretch, she's also saying, let's allow ourselves to stretch. Um, if nothing else, out towards one another. And
Yes.
the last thing I'll point out is there's one line that doesn't get repeated, and it's as I dream about a world that celebrates all of us, it changes in the next line to all of us fully. And that seems like the heart of the poem to me.
As Ash Eichner-Pendell pointed out in the first interview of this podcast, that what motivates her activism is to help people be their authentic selves and to feel good about
Oh,
that. And that's what
it's,
Kay Barnett is saying here.
yes, it is. It's the work of a lifetime, isn't it?
Yes. Let's stop sharing our screens so we can say goodbye.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, this was fun. I know we could talk all day about 3 poems, so we had to control ourselves, but we will meet again soon on the podcast and do this again.
I look forward to it.
Thank you for joining me, Maryam Barrie.
Bye, Carolyn.
Bye. Thanks to our 4 guests today, Ash Eichner-Pendell from ARC and Laura Russeau, Milan mayoral candidate and producer of Milan's annual Pride Parade. Thanks also to Brie Nikora, Pridezone and Outreach Coordinator for Ozone House in Ypsilanti. And last but not least, thanks to Maryam Barrie for sharing some LGBTQ plus poetry on our Poetry Sustained segment. Happy Pride, everyone. That's it for the Whimsy Farm podcast today. I'm Carolyn Crane, your host and producer. This podcast is produced on the sacred ancestral land of the Anishinaabe people. Thanks to the California band Castle House for writing and performing our music. Thanks to our underwriter, Just Play Productions, and to our Patreon members for their support of today's podcast. If you'd like to offer your support, please visit our website, whimsyfarm.net, click the Patreon link, and find a level of support that's right for you. There's also a free membership level. You can email me through the website as well. That's whimsyfarm.net. The Whimsy Farm podcast airs the 1st and 15th of each month on our YouTube channel, Carolyn Crane and Whimsy Farm, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can find links to audio and video and Patreon, all at whimsyfarm.net. Be sure to join us on July 1st when we talk gun safety legislation with nationally known activists Amanda Wilcox and Gwendolyn LaCroix. Until then, remember the words of Utah Phillips, who said, "Too many people are doing too many good things to afford me the luxury of being pessimistic." Get out there and create some positive change. Stay safe, everyone.
whimsyfarms.net